The rise in fraud online has made more and more consumers and businesses vulnerable to digital scams, while services like e-commerce and online banking have made life simpler. They've also opened users up to the possibility of getting their money stolen.
From schemes that target your online banking apps to cons aimed at hijacking your tax return. What can you do to protect your data? Imagine that, somebody trying to hijack your tax return. People wait all year for that. A staff reporter for CNET, Alfred Ng, joins us now from the CNET studios in New York City. Thanks for joining us. That just got me upset because I know people bank on that tax return to pay off bills, to maybe go on a trip, and to have it being swiped right from from under you.
And I just did my taxes, and for the first time I actually used an account instead of using like TurboTax or something, and that was the first thing they talked about people swiping your returns.
Interesting. Okay, so listen, what are some of the best ways to protect your information then, especially information on banking apps or other apps that have your credit card information?
Hi, yeah, so the best way to protect data on your banking apps is to set up two-factor authentication if that's available. What that does is, so not only do you need to enter your password on the app, you'd also need to enter a code that's sent to your phone or your email. So it adds an extra step for hackers so they can't just enter your password and log in that way. Another thing that you can do is to make sure that you're accessing the app on a secure network. Your best bet is to use cellular data. Hackers often take advantage of open Wi-Fi networks and take advantage of insecure apps that way. You should also make sure you're using the legitimate version of the app. In the past, hackers have made fake versions of banking apps hoping that it'll trick people and then give up information that way.
Alfred, the majority of credit cards now have a chip on the card, but a lot of experts say, and this is surprising, those chips may not end up protecting you any more than the old strips when you just had the swipe. Can you explain that?
So they don't protect you as much when you're online because you're entering your card number that way. In that scenario, you'd have to make sure you're on a secure website. But when you're using the cards in person, cards with chips are much safer than using the magnetic strips. Think of the chip as a small memory disk that makes a unique code every time that you use it. It's much more difficult for people to copy and steal that. Strip cards, on the other hand, they're using magnetic technology. It's basically the same technology that like cassette tapes used. So they're much easier for people to duplicate the moment that you swipe into something.
Online retailers are also dealing with new forms of digital scams. What can those businesses do to stay safe and keep our information safe while they're also remaining competitive?
So the best way that online retailers can make sure customers stay safe is to be on the alert for any new vulnerabilities and to patch it as soon as possible. Think about the major Equifax breach that happened last year. That was because their team failed to patch their website even though they knew about the vulnerability. Retailers should also try to make the shift to HTTPS, which about 75% of the internet is on. It essentially means that your website is secure and that traffic from the website to your computer is encrypted. For example, some websites like Amazon, Walmart, and Best Buy are all on HTTPS.
And so we're talking about all of this in the final days before the tax deadline.
You got your taxes in already?
I just did mine yesterday.
So good.
Feeling good, feeling good. So how can people protect their tax returns from hackers?
Yeah, so we're a few days before the deadline, like you said, but the best protection for scam attempts on your tax return is to really do it as soon as possible. If you send in your tax return first, then it'll reject any other attempts that come on later. That's really important this tax season because so much of our Social Security information was stolen during the Equifax breach. You should also be wary of any phone calls or emails claiming to be from the U.S. government or the IRS asking to verify your Social Security number or your password. That's a scam, and they would never do that.
That is good advice.
Yeah, that is very good advice. And actually, the idea of getting it done early is important. John McGlinchey, our senior producer in the control room, remembers 2 years ago, I waited in not just until the last minute. It was literally the last hour where I had to run to the post office and I had to leave the show and get it in. So
he learned his lesson because he's early this year.
Yeah, exactly. Slightly early. Alfred Ng, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.